Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours, where we talk media and production 7 days a week, and it's our pre-NAB show here on a Friday morning Q&A. We've got a couple questions lined up already and an awesome panel assembled, so we're going to dive right in. Alexander?
First question this morning is coming from the QR code. Andy Kokendorfer in Vieira, Florida asks, I am running a multi-track conference with all-day Zoom meeting per ballroom. Which AI's meeting summary type should I choose, given that there will be many different presentations per Zoom meeting?
What I would do in this case is probably the lecture version. So if you go into Zoom, they have like one-to-one general meeting template, which kind of makes things generic. And this is all in that AI companion. And then a lecture is the one that's designed to try and summarize ideas, knowing that it's coming from one person. The trick is when you're trying to chunk up a bunch of different presentations throughout the day, it can get a little confused. But the speaker identification is good enough. I actually did this at a meeting. We had about maybe 10 or 15 presenters over about an 8-hour period, and it did a good enough job of separating out each individual piece. Now, if for whatever reason the AI companion summary doesn't handle the multiple speakers well, because you're probably stretching it a little bit more than the default template was designed for, you can design your own custom templates with your own custom instructions, and that might do a good job. The other thing that you might consider is taking the audio transcript, and this is what I ended up doing with my meeting, taking the audio transcript of the meeting and then feeding that into something like Otter.ai, which has speaker, or a different model that has speaker detection, and then running some sort of summary on that with Zoom AI Companion or a different tool. And they're, especially with the new the notes feature, they're giving you more and more extensibility. The one thing to be careful of, if you're like me and you don't like having every transcript of every meeting recorded forever and ever, I am opted into the zero data retention policy. And so what that does is that after the meeting is summarized and after it's tokenized, it shreds the transcript and all that's left is the summary, which is great, except if you want to modify things after the fact. If you want to have a new transcription or a new transcription or a new summary or a new template go over your meeting, well, that original transcript isn't there anymore. So keep in mind if you are opted into that, then you may want to have the meeting recorded so that way you can run that transcript through another service. Next question.
This one is coming in from the QR code. Chuck Hodges in Tuolumne, California. How can I stack Pocket Juice phones, power banks, to power a laptop for field use? Do I need something like a bidirectional USB hub or a rocking station? Where should I get one or make one without soldering? Thanks.
Chris.
I don't know why you would need to. The laptop has a battery by itself, and then you can have as many external batteries as you want. And when a battery is plugged in to the laptop, it's going to use the external battery first. And when that dies, you just unplug it, plug a new one in, and there's no downtime because the laptop has a battery of its own. So I'm not sure what I feel like you know this, but like maybe you're trying to do something that's not quite clear.
Courtney.
Well, one thing to take into consideration is most laptops require 20-volt power supply, 19 to 20 volts DC in on a USB-C if it's on a USB-C, and USB-C can provide 19 volts. So if your battery is at 19 volts or can generate or provide 19 volts, it's not going to power your laptop or your, or charge its battery. So take that into consideration. You can get you a 12-volt, big 12-volt brick battery, a block battery, and a voltage converter that converts up to 19 volts to provide a power to your laptop. But you might look for your particular laptop, see if it has a car adapter, so a 12-volt car adapter. That might work for you. But take that into consideration because most of the time, most things are charging at 9 volts for fast charge on a phone or 5 volts, which is the USB-A standard. So bear in mind that you probably don't have enough voltage to power that laptop.
And it probably is the thing that you're trying to solve is most likely right in line with what Courtney's saying, is that I've got all these small power banks, but no one of them has enough oomph to actually charge the laptop. And because of the way that USB power delivery works, there's a negotiation between the thing that's charging and the thing that's being charged. So the thing that's providing the power and the thing that's receiving are trying to figure out, okay, what's the maximum that you want to take? What's the maximum that I can give? And so if you end up, daisy chaining or trying to plug things together, what'll end up happening is it's like all of the, and I've tried this before, all the batteries end up trying to charge each other, and then you lose all of your power in the transfer between the two, in heat or whatever else, and then hopefully the laptop goes in the other end. What I ended up doing, and I actually had bought a bunch of these for these Anker power banks. They can do 140 watts out on a single port, so they're good to charge a Mac or anything that needs a lot of juice. The trick of it is I bought them because I was doing a construction time lapse, and I was trying to put a camera where I couldn't get power. And so I was up in a steel beam and like 30 feet in the ceiling, and I was like, okay, if I daisy chain 3 or 4 of these together, then what'll end up happening is I won't have to visit this thing more than once a week. And then I was quickly disproven there. But as a result, I ended up with having 3 or 4 of these sitting around, and it's actually really nice. I found myself working on a project. I really got into it, and I liked the table that I was at. I was in a hotel, and I was in this little corner, and nobody was bothering me, and I could stay focused, but no electricity. I had 2 of these in my bag and was able to work, for pretty much the whole day. Because if you're everybody makes these big claims about battery life, but as well as I do, as soon as you get into anything that's processor intensive, if it's video or photo editing, if it's doing some sort of coding project, whatever, that can start to drain really quickly. And if you're like me, you also like to have the screen brightness cranked up all the way. Not great for power. So I had 2 of these, and when one went out of juice, I unplugged it, plugged in the next one, and we were good to go. Now, these are airline safe. They're under the 99 or 100 amp hour or watt, or whatever the measurement is. However, depending on the airline, they're starting to become more strict about flying with these sorts of batteries and using them in flight, which is a real pain in the butt, because if you don't have power in your seat and you had a long flight, you thought this was going to save you. It might not be the case. So just if you are going to invest in a couple of these, make sure that you're checking any travel restrictions. You definitely can't put them in checked luggage. I was on an airline a few weeks ago that wanted me to have them, I couldn't even have them in my bag. I had to hold them until we got in the air. And I was like, wow. But I don't know if that's something that is going to catch on as a trend, but just be warned. Next question.
This question is coming in from the QR code. James Wickley in Ohio. We have a client looking to build a podcast studio to post on YouTube, mic, lights, and camera. For a one-man shoot and edit, option to add a second camera later down the line in decent quality, desired within $2.5K USD budget. Suggestions of kit.
Alexander.
Yeah, so I was frantically trying to put all this stuff together at the beginning of the show here, and I'm still not done. But $25 is going to be really hard to do. You're going to want, if you're thinking of a setup that will allow you to expand, you're not going to want to use USB webcams. But the most affordable, decent webcam that I can think of would be Sony's EVE-10 Mark II. You're probably going to be looking at that with a kit lens. And I started adding all this stuff together, so let's have a look at this. And I haven't even added the lights yet, but here we go. You're probably going to want to look at something like this, like the Rosdecaster Video S, which has 2 HDMI in, so that gives you the option to add a second camera later. Also works as an audio interface. A Shure MV7X, which is XLR only for $179. This is all US stuff, US dollars, since that's where you are. You'll need an XLR cable to hook that up. And I would suggest a low-profile mic arm like this one from Newer. They're pretty decently built, and you always got to worry about sight lines when you're doing stuff on camera. You don't want a big mic arm hanging down in front of your face. There's the Sony EVE-10 Mark II, and that comes with a kit lens, a 1650 millimeter lens. Now, keep in mind the kit lens, probably not going to be the most fantastic lens, but it's serviceable to get you started, and you do have some adjustability with the zoom there to get yourself framed properly for like a talking head style show, or if you're going to do something where you need to kind of zoom out a little bit, you do have some flexibility there. Just remember that like standalone good lenses, this is going to totally blow out your budget. So that's not really going to be realistic at this point. You're going to want a dummy battery with this. I think Small Rig makes one. I'm not sure if Sony has an official one for this, but a dummy battery with external power supply, so you don't have to run this thing on battery, because you're not going to want this thing to shut down in the middle of doing a show, which is probably going to add in about another $100. So I haven't finished adding all this stuff up yet. So just the stuff that I have here, including you're going to want also a camera tripod, which I added, which is about $56, not a super expensive one. So before tax, I'm already looking at $21.92, and I haven't even added the lights. For the lights, I would probably look at the newer 18-inch LED panels. They're a nice soft diffuse light. Sorry, I apologize. I didn't have time to pull it up there. But by the time you add the lights, a couple $100, you'd probably want at least 2 LED panels, one for your key and one for your fill light. And then you'll need, I think you can get them on Amazon with the little C-stands included there. So my guess is that depending on what state you're in, depending how much tax in, you might squeak by with $2,500, but I would probably try to come up with another extra $500 just for miscellaneous stuff there.
Chris.
Yeah, I think this is, well, so it depends on what your end goal is, right? Like if you're trying to put out something that's a decent quality, good picture, good sound, this is pretty tight budget, right? Like you could spend all of that on a camera and more and not have the nicest camera, right? So, Alexander listed a bunch of options, and they're all great. It's all going to be about what your end goal is and finding things that can kind of fit into that will allow you to maybe grow in the future. The audio is going to be key, and you may you may want to. And the other thing is you didn't mention whether this is just you. Like, is it just you talking into a camera, or are you going to have guests? Do you need 2 of everything? Do you need 3 of everything? That complicates things. That makes things even more expensive. But just assuming it's just you talking into a camera, you may consider going with the Shure MV7 and not the 7X, and then growing into an external audio input and just going mic in. And so this is a tight budget. I would say to get something decent, you're probably looking more around $3,500, $4,000 to have a solid setup through the chain.
Chris, Fenwick.
All right. Forget those other guys. They're just trying to take all your money. So listen, right now, this is what I'm using. Like right now, okay? $350 OBSBot. I actually have 2 of these Elgato key lights. I'm not using this mic. I do have a little bit better mic, but this is not a bad mic. It's an absolutely acceptable mic, and you're going to want a Stream Deck. So under $1,000 and you're killing it. And here's the thing. Be realistic. Something like 85% of all podcasts die after 3 episodes. And also 97% of all statistics are made up on the spot. But you should remember that you can always upgrade this stuff later. Try it. See if you're any good at it. See if you can build an audience. If you can build an audience, you can absolutely expand. I'm about to start my new YouTube show, and I'm using this, and I'm using OBS for free because I'm a cheap bastard, and I'm just just realistically save your money, give it a try, see if your show's any good. You can upgrade in a year.
And Go ahead, Chris Sabato.
I think it's funny. I'm usually the one coming back with like, no, you can do this cheaper. This is way too expensive. And Fenwick switching the roles on me.
You were giving me a hard time yesterday about being, you're paying your Mac tax. You stupid Mac people spending all that money. I'm trying to prove that you can do it cheap.
You absolutely can do this cheap, right? Like Fenwick's right. Like you can do this for $300.
Well, can somebody clip the part where Sabato just said Fenwick's right and send that to me? Thank you.
Put it on a loop. The other thing I would consider, James, is look for used gear. Look for whatever gear is hanging around. Do you have a friend who did a
podcast last year and he canceled it because he didn't have an audience? Get his gear.
Or they just upgraded their equipment and now they've got there is so much. I think about how much latent gear is out there because somebody got something new, because they probably watch Office Hours and have gear acquisition syndrome. And it's like, okay, there are good gear deals to be had. And like Chris said, if your content is compelling, if your show is interesting, if you have something that makes people want to watch, you don't need to have all of the crazy whiz-bang stuff to get started. And then once that audience starts to build, then you know that, okay, it's worth starting to dump some real coin into this. Ronnie?
Yeah, I'm going to undercut both Chris and Chris. There are a microphone and something called lavalier. It's USB based. It's coming from Sennheiser. You find a numerous amount of these in different qualities. They are cheap. And then you have a camera, and the camera you are bringing all day long is the iPhone. So you use your iPhone, put the mic in there, hit record, and you probably just need a couple of lights and you're there. So that will cost you like $100 for the mic and $100 for the lights. So that's $200.
Fenwick?
He's right. I also want to say, just going out, some of my favorite YouTube channels are shot on the creator's phone. They're just literally pulling their phone. As a matter of fact, I was watching one the other day and the guy was working on something. He's like, oh, hold on, I'm getting a call. Like he had to stop his take because his phone was ringing and he was getting a call. So you probably have some pretty good gear. Be careful with your money.
Be careful with the mic. Make sure you sound good. And if you are going to try and use a less expensive camera or your iPhone, remember that cheaper cameras look amazing when they have enough light. They look really terrible when they don't have enough light. So make sure you've got the light in there. Next question.
This one's from Paul Vall, who's in Austin, Texas. What are the differences in video distribution between the ATEM Mini Pro and Rosdecaster Video S?
Courtney.
Well, they're pretty much the same with the one notable exception. The Rosdecaster Video S has three sets of outputs. The HDMI, which can be set at 1080p up to 60p. 1080 60p is the highest frame rate you can go. It covers all the frame rates down to 24, etc. Your USB output, you can choose what you want to go there, either program or multi-view or individual cameras, and you have an NDI output. This is the one thing you don't have on the settings for the ATEM, which is over here. You don't have an NDI. They do have their stream deck or streaming bridge that can give you video output over Ethernet, but you have a separate NDI output over here which you can configure to send any of these sources out over your NDI. So that's the one main difference between the two. Otherwise, the quality, you may not get the crushed blacks on the Video S. I don't know if they're ever going to fix that on the ATEM, but it tends to have a full black level on the Video S, which I'm coming to you now.
Yeah, I picked up a pair of these Video S's for an event that I was doing, and I was pleasantly surprised with the feel of the buttons, but also in the software. Compared to the ATEM software, it's a lot more friendly. It feels at first like, oh, this is junky, this is a little clunky. It's not as smooth, but it does give you a lot more. To me, it gives you more control. And when I'm not using them for an event, when somebody comes to visit our office, I can, use the one is the NDI sender and one is the NDI receiver on the other end. Or I've even done that where I have one of them just as kind of an NDI billboard in the building. And I know that there are other ways to do this. This is just something that I decided to do since I had the thing laying around. You can also get the Sienna Monitor app for Apple TV and turn any Apple TV into an NDI receiver. And you can, it seems like something small, but $50 one time. And if you have every Apple TV in the building can all of a sudden be a billboard, it's like, it's an interesting way to hack together a multicast and make people feel like maybe things are fancier than they are. I don't know. Courtney.
One other thing I didn't mention is, and it's not much of a problem, but when you have a T-bar on the atem software, so that you can go halfway mix between two video sources. So if you want to line something up, let's say in a split screen, and you want to move the split screen halfway across the screen, or you want to superimpose one image over another to line things up, you can't do that with the Video S. Your transitions are fades, but they're you can't stop halfway through, and you don't have a T-bar where you can adjust the percentage of one video mixed in with the other video. So maybe they can change that in software. We'll see.
Next question.
This one is from Guy Cochran in Seattle, USA. Is Ubiquiti getting into the 2110/NDI/Dante game? There's a link to YouTube there.
Tom.
Absolutely. They jumped into the deep end. By July, they're supposed to be shipping products all along the 2110 line. It would be a great time now to be designing remote facilities, trucks, and so forth. I love the new designs. The cooling from the front to back design is a much quieter cooling design. It allows for quieter fans running at lower speed, so you don't have to hide them off somewhere in a closet somewhere. And the ability to have fewer connectors on the back with 2110. You're truncating essentially 8 video feeds, full video feeds on a single fiber, and it just cleans up the wiring and everything. I think they're doing a great job. They've come out with multiple products that handle the entire line from the switcher on down to the converters. It's an exciting time to watch the equipment manufacturing process.
Ronnie?
Yeah, as you said, I think a lot of the cool stuff is yet to be seen, also from Ubiquiti. But definitely, they are putting some guns into this fight with a few of the other existing brands that have control over both timing and the quality of the equipment. And they've gotten some negative reviews on the previous systems and previous software solutions in that way that it hasn't been stable, it hasn't been really easy to configure, etc. And this is now a few of the protocols that they are supporting. So Unify, their own AV protocol, Dante, QSys, which a lot of people know from installation, NDI, of course, and Shure and AS and Crestron is also well-known providers of equipment in this field, and of course the 2110. So the interesting thing is that they are kind of moving in with a lot of guns, and they are starting to make really, really cool progress on this. But I'm yet to be convinced. I've had my problems with Ubiquiti up through the years, and sometimes the press releases doesn't necessarily get followed up by real functionality. But this looks promising. For the first time, I've seen some press releases from Ubiquiti that really tickle my interest, and we had a talk about this in the studio earlier today, and we're definitely going to get a few of these. And the other thing is they have this hardware device as well, which is shown here, which is kind of a HDMI in and HDMI out device, hardware device, that is acting as an AV bridge, sending signals in and out of this network. So it looks promising. I think I'll look into this a little bit deeper.
Next question.
Tom Ferguson of Phoenix, Arizona asks, how has the makeup of NAB changed from a show for the broadcast industry to today's podcasters.
And Tom, what do you think?
Okay, I'm the old guy on the panel, so I'll talk about late 70s, early 80s. When I walked into NAB, it was a show for, of course, just broadcasters. And how do I know that? The first thing I do inside the door, I'm coming into the Microwave Associates booth, because the new hot product at that time was being able to auto-track your microwave from, say, a helicopter back to your studio. Okay, how do they demonstrate this? I look up and they've hung a Jet Ranger from the ceiling so that you can look at this thing hanging underneath the helicopter. If you walked into a show at that time, you had big money to spend. There was no question about it. Even at that time, chief engineers walked in with 7-figure budgets. Nowadays, it's become more of a commodity, a product show for the influencers. Good, bad, it's just different. I can tell you, though, that I did appreciate being able to walk up to people, talk to the engineers of the products, be able to learn about them, and have fewer crowds back in the old days.
Courtney.
Yeah, I'm also one of the old guys. I was going since the 70s, been going for about 40 years every year, although I stopped right after the pandemic started. It was a whole different time than I remember when RCA introduced the first chip cameras. Whoa! From Plumicon tubes to chips. And they used to have a whole section just for bays for broadcast antennas and broadcast transmitters, the Gates and the people that manufacture the television transmitters and radio transmitters had a whole section of the floor for transmitters and antenna bays, things like that. It has changed considerably. I noticed a transition when the internet came around. There was a lot more software companies that were showing up. Microsoft then had a booth, and Apple had a booth for a while. And the editing software for video editing, once we went to nonlinear editing, I remember Quantel's Harry and the first software-based video editors coming around was quite interesting. But nowadays, and also back then, you had to wear a suit. Almost everybody on the floor was wearing a suit, a lot of times a 3-piece suit in the 70s, and with a vest. And these days, it's cash. You see people in cutoffs and T-shirts wandering the floor. Back then, if you weren't wearing a suit, no one would even take you seriously. You couldn't even get the time of day from anybody at a booth if you didn't show up with a suit on, because then they would treat you like, they couldn't tell you from, you with your home studio from, the purchaser for CBS television. So it's changed considerably. It's now a lot more democratized, and they didn't used to open it to the public. Now they do.
Fenwick.
Yeah, not only did you see people with suits, but you didn't see people with selfie sticks. Social media has completely changed NAB. I too was going in the 80s, and it was literally a different thing. But with the advent of social media, NAB has become more of a social gathering, hang out with your friends, meet up for this or that. Not that people didn't meet for drinks or have, business meals, but it was usually scheduled weeks in advance. It was something that you had to schedule with your executive assistant back at the studio, back at the office. So it's totally different. Better, worse, it doesn't matter. It's what we need today. It's what people need today. But yes, people used to go, to buy, $75,000 DVEs, $150,000 switchers, and $1 million transmitters. And now you're buying, Rode microphones and, Stream Decks.
Yeah, and the thing is, the heavy iron stuff is still there, but the fact that the creator economy is so vast and has the chance to make so much money, it's changing the vibe of the show, but it's also making things a lot more affordable, because instead of selling a dozen of them, they can sell a few thousand of them. And sure, there's going to be junk that shows up as a result of that, as people are trying to break into the real low end, bottom of the barrel stuff, or bottom of the wherever the price entry is. But somewhere in the middle, the tools that we're able to get for much more affordable prices than we were in the years ago. Alexander?
Yeah, so and I mentioned this in the chat, but I feel like, broadcaster in 2026 means someone with their iPhone and a USB mic, which is true. Obviously, things have really changed, but when I think broadcaster in modern times and the kind of some of the people that are really kind of taking over, I just think people holding this tiny little lav mic, doing an on-camera interview and shoving it in their face. Can you, excuse me, sir, can you talk into this minuscule little microphone capsule, please?
Yeah, because it's not about the sound, it's about the looks. The other thing that I'll mention about just conferences and conventions in general, the deals are not made on the floor. The deals are made at lunch and at dinner and at breakfast and at coffee and everything around the show. The reason that everybody ends up going to the show still is because you can have meetings that would have taken months and months and months to organize and travel all around all over the place. If everybody's in the same place, not only can you have a happenstance meeting, but also you could, if you wanted to, you could go and meet with Grass Valley and Ross and Blackmagic in a day or two, whereas before you would have had to do that across weeks. Chris, you had something else?
Yeah, I was going to say, one last thing is that, yes, it is true that a lot of deals happen later, but yes, those chance meetings are really interesting. A couple of years ago, I was walking down a hall. Several years ago, actually, walking down a hall, and around the corner comes Sam Mestman, our own Alex Lindsay, and Stephen Bays from Apple, and they were like, "Hey, Fenwick, what are you doing? We're going to go get lunch." I'm like, "Okay." And the whole time I'm having lunch with these guys, I'm thinking, they're going to realize I don't belong here. They're going to kick me out, and but it is fun to have those chance meetings, and yeah, it's just different now.
Next question.
All right, this one's from Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas. Welcome back, Paul. Chris Fenwick, tell us about your new podcast. What will be different about it?
What's up, Fenwick?
Paul, I'll send you that money. Thanks for posting that question. So yeah, I'm gonna bring back a show that I used to do called the Final Cut Grill. Actually, I called it the logo was FCPX Grill. Now I'm just calling it the Final Cut Grill. And the point is to talk about Final Cut in a way that makes more sense, because a lot of times people just want to, yell at the wind and say how bad it is, whatever, and resolve this and Premiere's that. And a lot of these conversations just take more time. My point is to do it inexpensively, like the question earlier. I can't remember who asked it. I'm doing it with a grand cost of $0, except for gear that I already have. And the gear that I have is pretty modest. And so I'm trying to do it myself. I've been working on a workflow. I think I got it down. As a matter of fact, I may actually take this recording here, CJ, and I may make this little announcement here the first episode that I'll post on my new YouTube channel I just started the other day. I'm not doing it live. I'm going to do recorded interviews, and yeah, that's it.
Well, that's your first ever cross-pollination crossover with the grill. Thank you, Chris. If you're hanging out with us on YouTube, we appreciate it, but we've also have a lively chat that's going on here and a great Discord. There's a lot more to Office Hours than just a live show, so if you go to officehours.global/join and sign up there, you'll get the email to see who's on the panel every day, but also all the links to get into the good stuff, the secrets, the behind the curtain, in the club stuff. It's chat during the show. You can ask questions like you can now, but you can also vote on questions to help drive what we talk about. And we have an awesome Discord community where you can see, hey, who's going to NAB? What are we doing? What's in the works for what's next? If you have an idea about the show and how you can make it better, it's run by just a bunch of volunteers. So everything that you see in front of you is because somebody thought, oh, I think that would be a good idea. And if you've got a good idea too, you can come over to officehours.global/join, hang out with us. Next question.
Craig Kadoki in Toronto, Canada asks, what's going on at Spacecommz? Looks like new apps.
We have apps, friends. So this comes out of Jonas Dottle and John Barker. But here now, if you've been around Office Hours at all, this is a new comms app that's web-based, but it allows you to now in an app that's on your phone or on your Mac or on your iPad, create different shows, create different channels, different PLs, create different roles and authentication. And it's pretty lightweight and fun to use. We've been testing it on our back end here at Office Hours for quite a while on the weekends, and slowly we're moving it to more and more places. So if you go to Spacecommz, that's SPACECOMMZ.io, you can see the blog post about it there. But very cool to have a native app. Chris Sabato.
That's just Mac, right?
So it's Mac. It's actually an iPhone and iPad app, but the iPad app runs on the Mac. So if you're on PC, it's still going to be in the web. I know that you're so excited about that.
Well, I saw this question and I logged in. It's like, no, this looks exactly what I always see. No,
yeah. So, but I don't know. Maybe they can throw. Can you do it with PWA? Anyway, but if you've Mac, iPad, iPhone, they've got native apps there. And then maybe if Chris is really good this year, we can ask Santa for some PC equivalents. Next question.
Ronnie Hofso in Tromsø, Norway asks, who's going to visit the Mimolive setup at NAB that opens in a few days? It show the power of AI and the API in a practical solution made in a day.
Oh, tell me more, Ronnie. What's up?
Yeah, so as many of you know, we are kind of power users of Mimo and use it for a lot of stuff. And we do development and we do coding and AI and vibe code, etc. And this is made possible by the very clever developers at Boeing's software that are developing Mimolive for us and creating those powerful APIs. But this time they've overdone themselves. So I'm just going to share one of the pages that Mimo has created. This is the show or the calendar schedule that they will be having inside the creators corner or creators lounge in the classroom at NAB. It starts on Sunday. So if you just go to Mimolive/NAB, you will get this this calendar and you can see what's going on there. And as you can see, for some of our community's members that are going, there are a few Mimolive sessions here that could probably be filled up with something funny. They also have these happy hours that is at the end of each day. So that is the plug here. But the really cool stuff is what Oliver and the guys did. So there are someone producing this show using Mimolive. I'm a part of the backend crew that will be controlling this, and they have really knowledge people on the floor setting this up. What is so cool to see is that Oliver saw this calendar that is coming from the producers at NAB, and saw that, there is a lot of names, there's a lot of titles, the presentations will change during the days, and leading up to the days, maybe some get sick, there's a new person flying in. And keeping track on this is something that we all that does this work see as a big nightmare, and sometimes you just don't show the graphics or the titles at all on the lower thirds. So what actually Oliver coded in a day or two is this production tool specifically made for the NAB schedule. And what we can see here is all the different presentations or presenters with their name, their text, description, etc. And this is just for the overview. And I'm not sure, maybe Oliver will be a little bit angry showing this, but I think he's kind of liking this. What we have in the list here is send to Mimolive. So this is live capturing data from the Google Docs that NAB provide us access to. And as long as we have that document opened and are logged in to Google, we can actually just use this web page and send that information into merge fields inside Mimolive. So the Mimolive document is basically just receiving and are replacing data coming from this button. I will not push that button. And then everything updates, and we can even have all these types of merge fields. This is just for show off. And all these merge fields can be used actively inside any type of layer inside Mimolive, and then everything will get replaced when we hit the button. So that way we can have posters for coming up, next pause, next presenter, etc., etc. And even during a presentation, if multiple people are doing the presentation, we just hit the button and the graphic layers updates automatically, and we just take it live. So this is a solution that you can visit the booth or the creators launch, I think it's called, inside NAB from Sunday off, and take a look at how you can. And this is vibe coded, by the way. 100% vibe coded. He told me in another meeting the other day. So this is really cool and a good example of how to use vibe coding and an AI to really just code something that is a one-off, because this is going to be thrown out when the show is over.
And you are going to be broadcasting all of the, or you're going to be recording all of the sessions?
Yeah, so
right? All
the sessions will be recorded, and it's up to NAB to do whatever they like with it. A few of those sessions will probably also be broadcasted into the after hours, and maybe also on YouTube directly. I don't have the exact broadcast plan, but that is in progress right now and being worked on. So just visit the Mimolive booth and have some fun. They have probably some snacks, etc. as well, I guess.
Thanks, Ronnie. If you're watching on YouTube and you are not yet in Mukana, you can still ask questions at askofficehours.global. That's askofficehours.global. There's nothing to log into, nothing to sign up for there. All you got to do is askofficehours.global, put in your name, put in your question, and we'll get it in over the next Q&A show. Next question.
All right, this question's from Guy Cochran in Seattle, Washington. What's this new beta stream router in Blackmagic Cloud?
Tom, what does it look like?
Well, I pay more attention to the hardware normally, but this is a cloud-based service that will allow users to manage, route, and switch live SRT video streams from remote cameras to various destinations within the Blackmagic Cloud. It allows up to 4 cameras that can be switched to cloud-based switchers or decoders.
Ronnie?
Yeah, so we have been using the Blackmagic Cloud for some time. Last time we used it kind of half professionally, I would say. It was during the IBC, where we just had phones moving around in the area, hitting record. And then when we hit the stop button, the proxy files were uploaded to the editor that sat in the media center and did some real-time editing. So shout outs to the boys that did that. And this is something that is being announced from Blackmagic a long time ago. So it's basically just kind of a router in the cloud, which I think you can send feeds from. We have some URSA broadcasts, G2, which can broadcast directly into the cloud, and you get a kind of a slot in that switcher, or kind of a hub, video hub, and then you can choose to send that or some other things. For instance, from your iPhone running the Blackmagic camera app, and you can stream directly into the cloud or into this Blackmagic Cloud, and then just choose which of these sources you are going to route to which output, and you have to pay for the output. And we managed to actually have 15 inputs enabled per cloud, so we can have 15 inputs enabled, and then choose to route them to any of the outputs, and each output's around $5 a month. So a few of those will not ruin you, and you can, of course, just subscribe when you're using this. And we're planning to use this in the summer during something called Midnight Sun Marathon here in our city in Norway, and just send that further into our atem bridges, which then it becomes our destinations. And there is a lot of other options as well you can use as destination. I haven't tested, but it seems that it's also going into DaVinci. So maybe just for fun, we should do some more testing with this technology in after hours. Guy and some other peoples in the community yesterday was testing a little bit. So maybe and you can also stream directly to, for instance, YouTube from one of the sources. So one of the routes can go directly to YouTube as well. So it's a lot of functionality and pretty cheap, I think. $5 is good for one output.
I don't normally go backwards, but I wanted to put out a minor correction. Mickey corrected me in the chat about the the apps, the Spacecommz apps for Windows and Android, those are out there. Chris had some ideas for some feature requests in the chat, and I know that John and Jonas are receptive to those, but I didn't want to disparage our friends. We appreciate you all, and we're excited to see you keep moving forward. Next question.
This question's coming in from Tommy Shantz in St. Paul, Minnesota. What are you looking to see from the NAB after hours coverage? Anything in particular?
I'm super excited just to walk around and bump into stuff. There's something magical about just getting to ride along. And Omar Gadon did a great job last year, and I think he's coming again this year to do the same thing, where we were streaming into after hours with a little bit of delay, and he had built a system. He had built a system in order to get the connection out. But the challenge was, how do you deal with the delay? And so we were using, I think we were in a Discord voice chat for the real-time communication, so that we could still get questions that were happening, or questions that were coming from the after hours room, and then being able to ask them on the floor. So it still has a couple of the edges are too rough for broadcast. Probably we're still trying to figure it out, but it was pretty cool for me anyway to get to walk up to Skarhoy, and I was chatting with Lucas from Skarhoy, and he was awesome. And then literally in my ear, like a producer, I'm getting this little. I was getting this little chat of and what about this, and what about this, and what about that? And it wasn't the same magic as the two-way communication, where the host, so to speak, just got out of the way, and then the person on the floor was able to talk directly into a panel or into an after hours. But I'm excited just to keep moving around. Fenwick?
If there's not a live stream from your barbecue, I'm going to be really upset. Just saying.
I think we can do it. We'll be close enough to the business center there that we can get that. We can get the hardline run. I guess I'm going to have to bring a spool of
just
Ethernet.
launch Zoom on one of your iPhones and jump into after hours.
No. We've got to get drones. Next question. Next question.
Paul Walhus in Austin, Texas asks, have you seen the Rode audio editor recording software that uses AI?
AI, oh my. Courtney.
Well, I don't think anyone has actually seen it. I did see the video that they released yesterday, which is interesting. It's called Rosdecaster Studio. It uses AI. It's heavily implemented inside there. It converts a variety of different audio files into a editor that has it has built-in translation and transcription, and the ability to edit by editing the transcript. It also does backfill for, when you cut something out, it'll cut out breaths and ums and uhs, things like that. It imports recordings from a variety of the Rode devices out there, and they do have a brand new wireless mic, a professional wireless mic, a UHF wireless mic that they're also introduced in this same video. That is interesting because it has onboard recording in 32-bit float, and it also has a timecode input on it, on the transmitter, so that you can sync the transmitters using onboard timecode generators. So they'll record broadcast wave files internally that can be then post-synced in their software, in their editing software. So that looks interesting. This new software can then downmix and record and output a variety of different formats, including broadcast wave with timecode. So it looks very interesting. It is still vaporware, I think, at the moment, but they have announced it for NAB, so it might be something to look at in their booth at NAB. So Rode Audio has a bunch of new products that are coming onto the market. I also saw it, I haven't seen it before, is a capture app, another piece of software for competing with the Blackmagic capture that turns your iPhone or your Android phone into a capture device, professional camera and audio recorder. So that's interesting to take a look at too.
Yeah, I'm ambivalent about this one because as much as I like to see a new app that doesn't have any existing users that they have to please and can try to figure out, okay, what features do we need for right now, for today? I also worry that their promise gives you the ability to make it too clean. Edit out every every breath, every pause. And then eventually I feel like you suck the humanity right out of whatever you're trying to. Like if you turn that dial up too much, it ends up just sounding like it could have been artificially generated anyway. And there's I think a little bit of magic in the flaws. Courtney?
One feature that they do show in this video, and I don't know how well it's going to work, is that you can edit using the transcript. I said that already, to pull stuff out, but you can actually change phrases to go from I was thinking about and to you might want to try, and you just type in the change. It synthesizes that voice in the style and matching the surrounding voice, and puts it in without having to re-record anything. So that'll be interesting to see if it works. If it is, voiceover announcers are already out of a job, but now they don't even have to come in for, changes or versions. Anytime you have a television commercial, you have different localized versions, now at the local Save Mart, now at Ralph's in your neighborhood. You don't have to record all those tags for different stations and different locales. It can just use AI to auto-generate those things.
Hey, if you're getting some value out of office hours, we invite you to provide some of that value back to us. We've got officehours.global/donate, which lets you contribute to keeping the show run, helping us pay the bills. We appreciate that. You can also volunteer during the show, around the show. We have spots. We're always looking for new on-air talent. If you feel like you've got something to say and you can contribute to this conversation, then check out officehours.global/volunteer, and you can sign up there to see what you want to do. But I like to think of the part of officehours.global/donate as, what was office hours worth to me this week? Did I learn something? Did I save money because I found out about a deal? Did I not buy something because somebody said, hey, I've been there before, I've got the scars? Was that worth $5, $10, $100? I can't tell you what it was worth to you, but you can at officehours.global/donate. And if you do, we appreciate it. Next question.
This question comes in from Tommy Shantz in St. Paul, Minnesota. What are some other sites that are covering NAB? Gotham is one that comes to mind.
I am so boring when it comes to coverage of events. I actually dislike most video coverage. I find it painful to watch. I think the stuff that we've done from with the two-way was the most compelling that I've seen, but I end up reading like SVG, like their website, just because I want to see what are the, just let me skim really quickly, because I also don't have the time to sit there and watch hours and hours and hours of content. Now, if I, instead of going to the show, devoted time to following the show, then maybe it would make sense to kind of poke around. But for me, I like to skim, and then if I find something in the written stories that's compelling, then I might dig a little deeper. But usually I'll start with a publication and then go from there. But I think I'm a throwback there. Courtney?
Yeah, if you sign up to get the newsletter, you get the NAB show daily. They publish a show daily with articles and stuff in there, and they also produce videos from the show floor, usually. I guess they're still doing that because they used to have a little stage where they'd bring people in and produce a daily video show featuring different resellers, etc.
Does Larry Jordan do that? Is that the Larry Jordan
I don't know.
joint?
Maybe.
Larry.
CNET used to also have a live desk that they produce stuff. I don't know. There's so many budget cutbacks this year because of expenses have gotten so high that they may not be doing live coverage anymore. So take a peek out for that. Gotham is always good because they have a roaming reporter and they push stuff daily. So that's always good to take a look at too.
Chris Sabato.
I usually follow SVG and News Shooter. Those two, and basically, I'm not going to their websites. I'm following them on social media, and usually things of interest kind of bubble to the top. And those two sources usually have some interesting stuff that's new.
See, I have to go to the websites. I get so scared to go on whatever the social media is because I feel like I'll get distracted by something totally different and then I'll go down a different rabbit hole and lose the 20 minutes that I thought I was going to read about cameras is now, dog videos. Chris, Fenwick.
My personal favorite place to learn about NAB is to go to the Rode website because they can learn about all their fashion microphones.
Oh my gosh.
So not only are we clipping decks of playing cards to our shirts, but now we're coloring them, presumably to match something. And not only that, if you scroll down, look at this. They have colored mics. Oh. Our industry is dead.
Well, if it fits your show's aesthetic, it certainly makes it easier to mix.
It's the
Was that the blue
barbification
microphone?
of
Was that the
podcast audio.
next question?
All right, this one is from Roz Humphreys, and looks like there's two questions here. Anybody happen to know if Zoom recordings are stored on site or off-site? A friend questioned how some information from ChatGPT seemed to convey info from Zoom meetings, probably coincidence, but said I would ask around.
And then what's the second part?
And the second part is also on my Mac screen recordings. What's the best way to record internally versus using the Mac's mic?
Okay. Chris, why don't you start us off with that first one?
I'd have to be paying attention.
Yes.
Here's what I could tell you about the recordings. If you're in this is what I stop laughing at me, Chris Sabato. So if you're in a normal Zoom meeting and you hit the record, it goes to the cloud, and that's cool. From what I understand, talking to somebody yesterday, can't remember who it was. If you use the new ISO 3.0 and hit record, those ISO recordings record onto your local drive. From what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how that goes.
Another thing that these sort of serendipitous, because we've all been in the situation where we're having a conversation with someone and we didn't Google it, we didn't do anything to follow up, but then later that day we see an ad that's about the thing or something else. A lot of times what happens is that you didn't Google it, but somebody else that was in the room with you Googled it, and because you were associated with that other device, they're trying to tie you together. And sometimes it's a little creepy, but maybe ChatGPT is doing the same sort of inference. I don't know. It's probably a coincidence, but I know that Zoom handles a tremendous amount. If you think about the tremendous amount of data that Zoom has to handle every single day, and the businesses that are relying on it, they can't afford to have anything private be leaking out from a confidentiality perspective. That's their whole brand. It would totally go against their business. I mean, you could make the argument that, oh yeah, you could make a revenue stream because you know all this stuff about all these people, but you would also not have a business is the thing. And as far as on your Mac, when you're recording internally on the Mac the screen recording, if you use any USB microphone, any audio interface, you can just, in the screen recording settings, I read this as a Zoom recording thing, I think, and that might be why I smushed these together. So these are probably unrelated. But if you're doing the screen recording on your Mac, you can pick a different microphone. And if you are stuck with the built-in microphone, you can go into the settings in the menu bar there that have the little microphone icon and drop down and turn on the voice isolation. If that's all you've got, it'll do a better job than nothing if you're trying to get the background noise out, or you could try and process it later. Let's try and sneak in one more question.
Okay, this one is from Zach Stelsmith in Chautauqua, New York. Spacecommz.io mobile app is here. Has anyone tested it?
We've not tested it yet, but now that we know about it, I'm sure we're going to have a lot of feedback from people who are, even on this show over the weekend, will probably try it out. I'm not sure if you've tried it, Alexander.
I did. I opened it and I had an issue right away with audio. So as soon as I open it on my Mac, which is running on the computer running other apps like my Zoom meeting app, it takes over it does something with the audio. My playback volume in the meeting dropped by about half, and it also affects my microphone audio. So there's some audio processing. I don't know what it's doing, but I digged into the settings and there are no settings to change anything. So back to the drawing board there.
All right. Well, we'll have to tweak that. That's why you. That's one of the things that I love about office hours is that we're pretty bleeding edge. We try not to be unstable when we come to production, but we always want to try the new thing right when it's out. And part of vetting this stuff is testing it and making sure that we've got it. That's going to wrap us for our pre-NAB Friday. Thank you, everyone, so much for coming in, giving us some of your Friday morning, hanging out with us. Thank you to our panel for being here, giving us your life experience, your expertise, and your opinion. We appreciate that. Also, thank you to our producers asking the questions. You're driving the show with what you're asking, and every single day, I find something I was like, never thought of it that way. And that's all thanks to you. Also, thank you to the back-end crew for keeping us organized, keeping us moving forward, keeping us looking and sounding good. They're up hours before making sure everything's set up. You have no idea. It takes a small village to run this, and we appreciate you all so, so much. Tlaloc Traversal today, had we in person ran around and asked and answered. For episode 2215, we'd have 28,000 miles. That's 45,000 kilometers and 222 million bananas for scale. That's an Arctic banana, but we'll take it. I think it's an imperial equivalent. We'll see you in after hours.
Do bananas grow in the Arctic? I don't think so.
So that section that
Frozen
I
monkeys.
discussed about my new show, I actually did post it. It's on the YouTubes.
Episode 1.
Episode 0.
I subscribe
Episode 0.
to your social media account and your YouTube account, even though I'm not a Final Cut user.
Well, you know what? You don't have to be. It's going to be entertaining. I promise.
I got to tell you.
I don't doubt that for 1 second.
I was just having a ball yesterday. I had a bunch of drone footage that was, I had took like probably a half an hour solid because I was just trying to see what was pretty. I wasn't trying to focus on, I'm going to get this shot, I'm going to get that shot. I was getting whatever was there because the light was right in the clouds and I knew the train was going to come by. No views. We're doing great. And then went into Final Cut, and the fact that I was able just to go in every time I moved the drone to like do a new shot, I just boop, delete. All of a sudden now I've got 2 clips. Everything's tagged. It's just the whole.
Chris, I got a suggestion for you. Something I've been dying to see that I've never seen anyone do, and I think you're the perfect person to do this.
Great. I have a reputation.
Get somebody. I want you to get someone that is like a DaVinci Resolve ninja, someone that's on your level with Final Cut Pro. Yeah. You both assemble the same footage in each app and see which app is faster at
listen,
that edit.
Sam
like do a
Messman and
speed edit.
Right. Sam Messman and I talked about this years ago before Resolve was an editor. And what we were going to do is Avid, Premiere, and Final Cut. We were going to do basically like a game show.
Yeah, and exactly.
What you have to do is you have to get a great editor. You know what? We should let the crew go. Thank you, everybody.
Happy Friday.
All right. I just wanted to plant that seed. That's all.
I planted that seed a long time ago.